Omega.
Yes.
So, when you put on a suit, that makes you a bad guy, doesn't it?
Every bad guy I've ever known owned a suit.
Is it just me, or do people who are of the, let's say, rocker tendency in suits really look out of place? Well, I mean, I guess you could say that he's falling down a black hole. I'm just saying. Let's start the show, because I had a better joke there. Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 120 of Woo Get Serious. My name is Gunnar, and that is Omega BR.
Sorry, I was a bit stifled there. I have my Electronic Entertainment Expo coverage in the other window, and it's always funny to hear executives saying things like, "My body is ready."
It's really funny to watch executives trying to actually, do things in the ring. Looking at you, Triple H and Stephanie. Joining us this week is our wonderful technical producer, Mr. Yeager. Yes.
It's broken. It can't be fixed.
And the return of the one, the only, the Net Jester.
Yes, like a 100-foot titan stamping over your walls, I have returned.
That's nasty.
We all know his body's ready.
Here.
Yes, and like a 100-foot stallion, he's jumping on top of Rainbow Dash.
Only if she's in human form.
Oh, jeez.
Like a 100-year Chardonnay just waiting to be uncorked.
We're going to start with the news.
Yeah.
We're going to start with the news. There was a tremendous personal pressure on Daniel Bryan to compete at Money in the Bank, physically ready or not, but he was informed by doctors that he will not be medically cleared. Apparently his rehab hasn't been making gains, and he's actually losing feeling in his arm while still feeling pain in his neck. All of the decisions about him and the title creatively have come straight from Vince McMahon. There will be a new champion at the pay-per-view who has already been decided. What? The decision to have Seth Rollins turn on the Shield was made in the afternoon of Payback. It was McMahon's way of responding to the low Raw rating. The idea is that Roman Reigns could face Randy Orton, then Rollins at Battleground, before finally getting Triple H at SummerSlam. So, this Shield angle is looking pretty hot.
Super rough situation with Bryan. Terrible timing, obviously. The good news is he still seems to be factoring into their long-term plans. It's just a matter of when he's actually ready. And obviously with a neck issue like this, they don't want to push him too hard. I mean, not that I don't think he... If it wasn't for doctors, ordering that he not be in the ring, and I think he probably would have been. But at least they've kind of lucked out once again, in the sense that, this whole Shield thing has been going good, and also the fact that they have Wyatt and Cena, and that thing's kind of been going okay, and they do have, like you mentioned, certain people like Cesaro who are backups and all. I mean, it's not like they have no plan, I mean, or no option, rather. I mean, they're in okay shape.
So let's just really drill down on this for one quick second. I wasn't here last week, so I didn't get a chance to ask you guys, do you think it was a good idea for the Shield to be broken up? Because I'm with a lot of people on the internet on this one. I still think they had room to run. I think this is, if you need to do this because of Brian or to distract from the title scene, then I guess I can understand that, but I really think this was a bad idea.
I think they had room to run. It's just, I think, even without the Bryan situation, if you want to sort of keep in mind that SummerSlam is the biggest show, second biggest show of the year, and they still truly believe that and hype it up as such and everything, and it really is. So if you want to start that push towards SummerSlam, we're basically, if SummerSlam is WrestleMania, we're right about the Royal Rumble time right now. So, that's kind of when you start to push your program for WrestleMania / SummerSlam, which would be, which appears to be Roman Reigns breaking off on his own, which, in a way you can't really do without.
Right, exactly. I don't think the Shield is going to last much longer. I think it's a really good idea because it's time for them to actually, go forward with this. Excuse me. I think that if you were to sit here and say, Seth Rollins really needed, to stick around, and the Shield had another hot run in them. No, not really. I mean, they're heating up now, and if they went on any longer, what would happen would be they would end up being stuck. Basically, they'd have to stick in the gimmick because they couldn't get another gimmick over because they would have been in this one for so long. This is all people would have associated them with. I mean, I understand that they've been in the company for 2 years now. 18 months or something like that. And at the same time, that's a really good run for a faction. I mean, if you're talking about, something that's a bunch of guys getting together, trying to get the younger ones over and trying to get the older ones, to help them get the younger ones over. Basically, what they did here was instead of having an older-younger dynamic, they had an all-young dynamic and put them against all older established stars, which brought them up to the level that they are right now. And I think it's a really good time to split them all off because, quite frankly, there's a spot open on the top of the roster, and Roman Reigns is going to Superman punch his way to the top, brother.
Plus the fact he had this big evolution feud, which, it's kind of hard to... The most natural way to continue it was to have one of the Shield turn on the rest of the group and then join Evolution, which, as nonsensical as it appeared to be to some people at the time, really kind of, they kind of are making a point.
Hoopsoo. Anyway, let's continue.
Speaking of making it work, it's time for some TNA talk. House of Hardcore had another event this past weekend, and Dixie Carter actually pulled Bully Ray from the main event of that show, so he could attend the Guy's Choice event as part of TNA's representation. Well, this all happened at the last minute because Tommy Dreamer was none too pleased cutting an in-ring promo against her, saying that she was a Twitter mark, and for everybody to let her know what they thought about it on Twitter. Also that he would get her back. Now, Dreamer remains an agent for TNA, but they had a bit of a exchange on Twitter. Dixie calling it a classy move to speak about her behind her back, and of course Dreamer fighting back with the idea of her pulling Ray at the last minute, which of course Ray also acknowledged, saying it was Dixie's fault and that he would give anyone with a House of Hardcore stub at the TNA events in New York and Philly a photo op and an autograph. Also, the True TV program Impractical Jokers was filming at the House of Hardcore event, making the That Episode's contest loser take chops from Dreamer and then get ganged up on by the students, the wrestling students.
LOL TNA acting completely professional because, while Tommy has a great point, some people would say that that's not the best way to do it. Personally speaking, I don't mind. I think he was completely in the right for, saying that. Yeah, I mean, you could have said somebody else, but I think Jeff would have been a little too high.
When wouldn't have he been? But it's all about leadership with some of these companies, and I have been one not to bag on Dixie in the past, but if this is the way she's going to operate like this, I mean, nothing against her personally, but maybe it is time TNA found a new leader.
I know Dreamer was one of the reasons he was particularly upset. He actually did a big kind of blog post about it after all this went down, and he said, he was a little bit upset because he felt through some of his efforts he helped TNA get stronger numbers in some of their Northeast events this year and in recent months and everything, which is probably the truth. I've said it before and I'll say it again, Dixie Carter is not a good business person, and granted, when you have certain obligations and everything, you want this person to appear at this event for the network. And by the way, they still don't have a new TV deal with Spike, so, obviously they're trying to have as much of a presence as possible in Spike related things. But again, when you do it at the expense of another event, another booking, plus someone who, is one of your agents and everything, it's just not a good situation. I think Dixie does what Dixie wants and then deals with the consequences afterward. She doesn't think, asks for forgiveness rather than it's historically spoken that Dixie does not think ahead. She thinks backwards because that's the way she believes things are done. The problem with that thinking is, quite obvious, and it's this: because obviously you could have not advertised Bully Ray to be at this show. And you could have not advertised, you could have advertised Bully Ray being at this Guy Awards thing. And while that's perfectly fine for Bully Ray to get some mainstream exposure, which, I mean, come on now, if you're thinking that this is, the mainstream exposure that will get TNA over, then you're highly mistaken. But, I mean, still, it's an important thing for them to do. It just, a little forethought would save TNA so much money.
Exactly. Besides, hands up if you actually want to go see what is in essence the Spike TV Horny Awards. Anybody hands? Anybody? Bueller?
Yeah, who knows how much. I mean, they were on the red carpet or whatever it is. I saw a photo of him with Velvet Sky and I think Angelina Love and everything. But are they really going to be featured? Are they going to present an award? I mean, or is it just a fact? Is it just a courtesy for them to show up? I don't know.
Alright, let's move on here. As I close out the window with the format.
Oh, crap. You got it, Omega? Or did I read the next one?
Go to commercial!
Well, why don't I go ahead and pick up the slack as usual? It seems that WWE officials have had discussions about doing a one-time event next year with the main roster at the NXT Arena, likely a Raw. They also quietly been putting money into Diamond Dallas Page's efforts to help Roberts and Scott Hall by paying experienced rehabilitation experts to help them, as of course they deal with their demons on a daily basis. Recently, Roberts turned down an invite to go to a strip club by some of the other wrestlers after an indie show in Oregon, saying he knows what would happen. And he's also been in contact with Bray Wyatt, giving him advice on his character. In fact, WWE has made an offer to Scott Hall's son to come to development, but he would rather make a name for himself first on the independent scene and overseas. There is a feeling, speaking of NXT, that the Ascension will debut on the main roster soon and could be the ones to challenge the Usos for the tag team titles. Things appear to be moving very slowly when it comes to the return of Tough Enough on the WWE Network, with several key talents they want not locked in. And former NFL, Indianapolis Colt, and Arizona Cardinal Baron Corbin is said to be one to watch in NXT.
That's interesting.
You kind of
NXT
need.
is looking. I mean, is it bad that NXT is looking like the best, wrestling that we're going to get in a very long time?
Seriously.
I don't think it's a bad thing at all, except for the fact that it'll overshine programs like Raw and SmackDown. Now, I don't have a problem with that because NXT is good wrestling. But if you're going to take a Raw and put it on NXT and do a 3-hour live special, then don't just make it the Raw people that are there doing good stuff. NXT has to have a big presence if they're going to do that.
I think it is mostly a bad thing because, it's kind of like whatever they're doing at NXT, that seems to be working. Whatever they're doing on Raw, that does not seem to be working. I mean, it's kind of like the same deal with, back when OVW was pretty exciting, when Paul Heyman was booking it and everything, and then a lot of people would come to the main roster, and then that's where you get stifled. That's where, which really, it's not all their fault. I mean, if you're in developmental, that's the whole point. You kind of see what sticks. And then you bring it to the main roster, and then you try to build that up, although it doesn't always work that way with the main roster, of course. But I think, in general, it comes down to the freedom that NXT has, which the main roster does not. And, I think it's fairly easily fixed. It's really kind of obvious, but, I mean, they haven't really realized it yet, so.
So this is basically the nail that hangs the painting on the wall, that Raw is Vince and NXT is Trips, and that's the reason we're getting this disparity in the shows. Plus,
that could be.
Plus, real quick shout out, yes, Ascension coming to the main roster.
Yeah, that should be really good. Another thing that's really good is two things also mentioned here. Scott Hall's son wanting to make a name for himself before he comes over here, he better go to fucking Japan, because I bet you it'll be over as fuck. Whatchamacallit, and good job, Jake Roberts. Good job, Jake Roberts, for understanding a bad situation and getting himself out of it because he wanted to, stay clean. I mean, I really hope that they do stay clean, and I really hope Scott and while their goals have been achieved and they're both in the WWE Hall of Fame, it's still they still got to deal with all of their personal issues, and some of us have forgotten about them, but it's awesome to see them carry on as they are. Alright, moving on.
Well, to be fair, though, to be perfectly fair, who wants to go to a strip club in Oregon?
Well, if it was a strip club in Seattle, at least he'd be semi-safe because they can't serve liquor there, from what I've heard.
Well, he'd have to travel probably a good 8 to 12 hours to get to Seattle to be able to understand that, because it's in Oregon, not Washington.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Alright, moving on here. Tamina Snuka underwent major knee surgery and will be out 6 months due to an injury she received in her match with Paige. There is a potential legal issue looming with Rey Mysterio as he's looking at leaving before Vince McMahon renewed his contract for another year, citing his injury time. Word has come out that WWE offered Sting a deal similar to the standard $10,000 Legend contract without any other guarantees. Talks were going smoothly between them, but negotiations continue. WWE sent out audition inquiries for an orchestra that would wear Sting masks, as well as a body double for the man himself, likely footage for an upcoming Sting DVD and B-roll. Ric Flair finally went for his medical tests to return to TV as a character, which he passed. Jim Ross had a health scare returning from Las Vegas and was kept in the hospital overnight for tests, but is back home now. They believe it was caused by medication for an unrelated issue and have fixed it, also telling him he had a minor undiagnosed stroke in the past. Not terribly surprising when you get older in age. The minor undiagnosed stroke thing is something that is pretty prevalent, which is why you're supposed to go to the doctor as often as you should. And so I would encourage people to, go ahead and do that. I want to see a Sting orchestra.
Oh, I know they have to make it a stamp on his forehead of WWE Sting, but could we not just overdo the hell out of this. I mean,
No, we need to overdo the hell out of this. That's exactly what this needs, is to be overdone and overproduced. Just everything they can fucking throw at this, they need to throw at it, because it deserves it.
Thank you, Vince.
No, I agree with Yanko, actually. Sting is a big deal. I mean, WWE has not had their hands on him, and he is the last remaining person, really, that meant pretty much anything to the business that the WWE has not gotten their hands on. So, yes, Sting is just as important and just as a big deal as The Undertaker, period.
Not to mention the fact that if you don't get hype for the idea of an entire orchestra with Sting masks or face paint on, you don't have a fucking soul. That's all there is to it.
Plus, his old WCW thing was very orchestral, wasn't it?
Orchestral?
Well, yeah, but that was before they started going with stuff from Metallica, like Seek and Destroy, which I think is a pretty good theme for Sting.
But still, I mean, we're talking about the DVD here, and what he wants to portray as the rest of his career. You know what I'm saying?
So we're not talking about. We're just for the DVD. We're not talking about something that would become his normal entrance if he decides to go the wrestling in ring route.
I don't think we'll be seeing him wrestling in ring. Period. I think that passed.
I think once or twice.
I would hope. I mean, hell, if Flair's coming back and he's passed his med tests, I mean, at least once or twice with Sting.
That's what she said.
But
Alright, let's get this last one in.
Well, it would appear that Jeremy Borash recently was interviewed, and he said that he would actually move Impact to London due to the massive fan base and the surprisingly high production values. The old Sin Cara will continue work as Sin Cara outside of AAA, but in that promotion he is now known as Ms. Tiz. Ms. Tees? M-Y-Z-T-E-Z-I-Z. So, try and sue him now, Vince. And WWE and Totino's Bold are running a contest where they will fly one lucky winner to the WWE Performance Center to work and train like a wrestler, even getting official ring gear made and making a live appearance in front of the fans.
So would he be going to NXT for a night then?
Sort of like a president and mayor for a day type thing. Yeah, I suppose so.
That'd be nice to win.
Probably have to sign
again?
Frozen pizzas.
Oh, okay.
Probably have to sign a waiver just in case DeMott gets at you.
Oh, yep. Hell yes.
Don't worry, he will. Knowing him, he would.
The ring gear has 2 buttons on the bottom.
Oh!
No, I thought it was a zipper.
A button's quicker. Plus it doesn't catch.
I hope to God
but this is catch as catch can.
Come on. All right.
Alright, let's move on here. 15-minute time limit time. Alright, so this week we're not talking about anything because there's nothing in the 15-minute time limit. What do you guys want to talk about for 15 minutes?
See, and this is why nobody listens to these podcasts.
Well,
Shut up, Jacob.
Well, I would like to speak about the as we mentioned earlier, the whole Shield issue. The fact that last week we talked, of course, our payback results and everything. But the fact of the matter is, we do have the Shield broken up. We do have Daniel Bryan on the shelf. We do have Money in the Bank coming up. If you believe that graphic on Raw, there's going to be 7 participants. We know 4, which are Cesaro, Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio, and Randy Orton. Presumably one or two more faces, since everybody in that match, save for Sheamus, is a heel. I have heard a rumor that it's expected, and probably the truth, that John Cena and Bray Wyatt will continue their feud via the ladder match. In other words, both of them will advance to the match. So, if we are to assume that's the truth, and there's one other person in the match, any guesses on who that might be, or even if it's not Cena and Wyatt, any guesses for who the remaining three will be?
I'm going to guess Chris Jericho makes his return.
No, I don't think so.
Really? Oh, is he touring right now? Hold on, let me look up Fozzy dates.
I believe he is. Every so often there's some kind of, Toronto elevator ad spoils Jericho's return, or WWE article spoils Jericho's return, or whatever, and, so sometimes that stuff is believable. I mean, back when he did the whole Save Us 222 thing, he was on the cover of the upcoming magazine, and that had leaked before he really came back, so obviously that's going to be an indication, but, an article or some quip about, is he going to dominate further, or this and that, not necessarily. I mean, it's kind of, sometimes those things are predictive, sometimes they're not, but, I would
actually, hold your horses here, because the only tour date that he is currently scheduled for that is anywhere close to the 29th is the 14th and the Donington Park Festival on the main stage in Donington Park, UK. So, in other words, Chris Jericho could very well return at this particular pay-per-view. Not that he would necessarily want to. Not that there's any indication that he would. But I'm just saying that this could happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Since he brought it up, if he did return, would he win the match? Would he become the champion?
You know what? To be completely honest with you, I think he would. I think he would, and I think he'd run with it. And I think it'd be like a 2-month run, and then him and Daniel Bryan could have a rematch of their first match. I think that it would make perfect sense too, because he would come back. It would be a big surprise. He'd be able to win the championship again, just because. And then he would, and then everybody else would be like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" And I could hear Randy Orton bitching about it now. The Wyatts and everybody else could go spin off. I mean, obviously Cesaro, odds-on favorite right now. Assuming that Jericho isn't in this match, but I could very well see. I could very, very, very well see, this being this potentially being happening, and it'd be a giant swerve.
Yeah, I very much like that Jericho scenario. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but I do believe. But it would be nice if it did. Now that being said, let's assume he's not. Let's say you mentioned Cesaro. Yes, he is a big favorite to win, but remember, this is a match for the championship itself. So, that would be paramount to pulling the trigger, so to speak. So, are they ready to do so with Cesaro? Even if it did end up being like a 2-month thing, which, by the way, is kind of similar to what they've done in the past, like with Jack Swagger win, and then he becomes world champion, but it only lasts, how many months, and then it's not like it really helped his career that much, but...
Sad but true. Oy.
I don't know, I think they have, kind of like with WrestleMania, they have a plan for SummerSlam, which is Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar in some kind of program, presumably for the championship. I think if you... But you got to put it on somebody, obviously, but... I guess what I'm saying is, I don't want it to go to Cesaro for 2 months and then him kind of just as a placeholder.
Exactly.
It's obviously a big accomplishment, but, it's... I mean, again, look at his former partner, Jack Swagger.
Right. But I was about to say that same thing. You don't want Cesaro to end up like Swagger, where, he's a former world champion, but for fuck's sake, it didn't do anything.
And Swaggy's run was amazing. I loved Swagger. I loved heel Swagger. He was so good. I was there in the arena when they had the whole ceremony with all of his trophies, and Big Show destroyed them all.
I remember that.
That was a fantastic Raw too.
He got huge heat too, which I was like, wow, hey, this is pretty good.
Now, of the other men announced, if they really actually, you know what, I'll bring this up. If they really wanted to kind of surprise us, well, putting in a perfect placeholder champion, perhaps Alberto Del Rio, who, by the way, was shown speaking to Stephanie the other week, which obviously was about this, but...
Can we just not?
It could happen. It could happen.
The only thing worse than them shoving Cena down our throats is them shoving ADR down our throats. He's a talented guy. He's good. But at what point are they going to go, okay, it's just not fucking happening?
Well, this is Vince we're talking about, so there could be a tremendously long freaking time.
He couldn't get heat if you wrapped him in copper and threw him in a fucking oven.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's going to be, Sheamus or...
Well, that would surprise me, though.
Orton. They're not going to give it to Orton.
Oh, wait, now hold on a second.
Now, hold on.
If we're going to run... Now, hold on a second. Now, before you go off and say that, if they're looking to put a... I mean, if they want a paper champion up, I mean, come on, who else to give it than Orton? I mean, that would make perfect sense and completely turn around. You know what I'm saying?
You could make it...
knocking on something that was like wood, yes.
You could make it work. You could say, particularly for when Bryan comes back, Orton has always sort of been the quote-unquote golden boy. In fact, he was the champion at WrestleMania and lost it to Bryan. And it was Orton who was champion when Bryan was trying so hard to get it throughout that whole saga. So you could make it work, I suppose, but I don't know. So
basically, what we're talking about here is Daniel Bryan, last SummerSlam, won the WWE Championship with the knee against John Cena, and then had his Money in the Bank cash in again with Randy Orton. Randy Orton wins at Money in the Bank, stays WWE Champion until SummerSlam, in which Daniel Bryan wins the championship off of him. How roundabout perfect would that be?
Oh, I don't know. I think Bryan will be back before SummerSlam.
I think he'll be back before SummerSlam too, but I don't think he'll get his shot at the title until then because they'll have they'll tease it like a motherfucker.
Well, I guess maybe you're right. Because what do we got? We got Money in the Bank. Then we have
Battleground, and that's it. And then there's SummerSlam.
Yeah. Well, then yeah, maybe. I mean, again, I think they have their plan, but I guess if plans change, I don't know. All right, there are some options on the table. All right. Well, let me ask you this, though. There are rumblings that there could still be a second ladder match at the event, which is the true, traditional Money in the Bank ladder match for a future world title shot, featuring more up-and-coming people. Basically, the match if it wasn't for the championship itself. So, let's just theorize for a second that match does happen. Who do you believe might be put in that match, since we do already have people like Cesaro and such in the actual title match?
Okay,
Damian Sandow, R-Truth, Kane, Big Show.
Okay, you want to put the final nail in the coffin of the Shield. As much as I don't want it, you give that Money in the Bank championship briefcase to either Roman or Dean.
Give it to Dean. It would be Dean who would get it because he did run with the U.S. Championship for that long, but Roman would be too busy feuding with Triple H.
You think they're going to set him up into a one-on-one? I just can't see how they're logically going to go about the entire Shield feuding with Evolution to just Triple H feuding with one particular guy in the Shield.
I don't know. Well, like I said, clearly they do have options, but something tells me that if they did have the secondary match, unless something changes between now and then, the person who won the case wouldn't necessarily win the title, because I don't really know of too many people that are kind of candidates, except for maybe a Cesaro or a Roman Reigns. I mean, Sando won it, and then of course he lost it as well.
Plus all shreds of his dignity as a professional wrestler as of last Monday.
Not really. He still has them. Let's see here. I don't know. I think Jericho would come back. I think Seth Rollins would be a good addition to this Money in the Bank match. Either one. I could see all three members of the Shield qualifying with the last three slots.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
And then, Bray and John would spin off into another part of the feud. But I really hope that the Bray and John thing is going to end shortly.
Yeah, a lot of us are hoping that.
It's just about run its course. Of course, the problem is, then what do you do with John Cena?
Hey, make him join the Shield. Did you see that last in the Raw thread that somebody made WWE 2014 create a character of John Cena as a member of the Shield?
He wouldn't join the Shield. Simply put, he wouldn't just join it.
I don't know. You'd have to find another decent feud for him. Maybe he ends up feuding with Kane and sort of the Authority. Didn't Stephanie make some quip on Raw about how Cena's always interrupting her or something?
Oh yeah.
Yep. And that's going to be a spinoff into another feud.
Probably where we're headed next.
Yeah, so perhaps Kane. I could buy that. Cena versus Kane for a little while.
Oh, again?
Yeah. Well, who else does the Authority really have at their disposal, except for, I guess, Orton and, Seth Rollins, but, they're...
Fandango.
They're a little preoccupied.
Yes, send him to kill Summer Rae if they dare, because of what she did last night to Layla.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that dangle. I'm so glad that Total Divas is over right now, because goddamn, I can't stand her. Is it just me, or... So, okay. Money in the Bank. All the dust is settled and cleared. We have like a minute left. Who do you think is going to win? Who's going to be WWE Champion at the end of the night?
I'm going to make a bold prediction, say one of the three who haven't been announced yet.
Okay, if it were just the four that are up right now, I'd say Cesaro. But I really can't say anything because we don't know who the other three are.
Honky Tonk Man is going to come back and he's going to win it. That's my prediction.
I'm cool. I'm cocky. I've got a hernia.
And then later he'll be.
Alright, so that's it for the 15-minute time limit. We're done here. Yanka, what are we going to go into?
We're going to go into commercial and we're going to come back with the song, and then we're going to do the 5.
Alright, we're going to do the 5, and you're listening to us live on Woo Radio. This is Woo Get Serious.
Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves.
You don't need to see his identification.
WOOO, Woo Radio, live and worldwide on woораdio.org.